My son died 15 years ago in a devastating accident. I saw him in the casket, felt his cold skin, and tossed dirt into his grave. I heard the heavy, final thud of earth on wood, a sound that echoes in my bones to this day. But last night, at 3:27 in the morning, my cell phone rang. His name flashed on the screen, and when I answered, I heard his confused, frightened voice asking, "Mom, where am I? It's completely dark in here." How can your heart keep beating when you hear the voice of someone you buried? The organ in my chest didn't just beat, it thrashed, a wild bird slamming against its cage, threatening to shatter my ribs. But before I continue, let me ask you, check if you're subscribed to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching this video from. We love to know how far our stories are reaching, how grief and miracles resonate across miles and screens. My name is Alada Vance, and for 15 years, I lived with a hole in my chest where my heart used to be. It wasn't a metaphor. It was a physical void, a sucking vacuum of silence where laughter and life had once been. My son, Zion, was only 17 years old when he died. A motorcycle crash on a rainy April night. A drunk driver in a pickup truck ran a red light at an intersection Zion passed through every day. The police said he likely never saw it coming. I hope that's true. I hope in the last millisecond there was no fear, just the shock of impact and then whatever comes after. In that moment, the moment my world ended, I was folding laundry. A mundane Tuesday, his jeans, still smelling of grass and boyish sweat. The phone rang at 11:42 p.m. It was the hospital. Miss Alara Vance, mother of Zion Vance. That single question, the formality of it, already held all the answers I didn't want to hear. They say there's a mother's instinct, a psychic chord that hums between a parent and child that warns us when something terrible happens right then, even before the emergency room doctor finished his careful, rehearsed sentence. I already knew. It was as if that invisible thread, the one that had connected me to Zion, since I first felt him flutter in my womb, had been abruptly, violently severed. The scissors snipped, and I felt the drop in my soul. The viewing was a blur of muted colors and hushed voices. I remember sitting on a hard, velvet-covered chair beside the open casket, unable to cry, just staring at my boy's face. The mortician had done a remarkable job, given the circumstances. He looked like he was sleeping, except for the grayish waxen tone of his skin and the heavy, too perfect makeup, trying to conceal the bruises along his temple. He was wearing his favorite black t-shirt and jeans, not the suit he'd later be buried in. I spent the whole night, after everyone left, caressing his ice-cold hand. Uselessly, I hoped his fingers would curl around mine as they did when he was little and needed protection from a nightmare. They remained stiff, unyielding, at the cemetery, under a sky so cruelly blue it felt like an insult. I tossed a single white rose onto the polished mahogany as it was lowered into the ground. The sound of the first shovelful of dirt hitting the wood a hollow, final thump, was the moment reality finally slammed into me like a freight train. My son was dead. Not at the hospital, not at the viewing, but in that moment, gone. I would never hear his laugh again, a sound that used to bubble up from his chest like pure joy. I would never feel his arms around me in one of his bear hugs, the ones where he'd lift me off my feet. I would never see him graduate, marry, or cradle a child of his own. All that remained of 17 years of brilliant, vibrant life were photographs fading with time, clothes in his closet slowly losing his scent, and memories that I clung to with desperate, fading strength. Zion's father, Darius, couldn't handle it. Our grief was a room we entered together but couldn't inhabit side by side. His was a loud, angry storm. Mine was a silent, endless winter. 6 months after the funeral, he asked for a divorce. He sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd had 1,000 family meals, and said he couldn't look at me without seeing the ghost of the son we lost reflected in my eyes. Maybe he was right. I couldn't look at him either, without feeling the empty space between us at the table, in the bed, in the car. Our 20-year marriage ended with a signature on cold, legal papers. Another death to add to my growing collection of losses. While Darius moved on, he remarried a kind woman named Claire within 2 years and had 2 beautiful little girls. I stayed trapped in that grave with Zion. His room remained untouched, a sanctuary frozen in time, a museum of a life interrupted. His clothes still hung in the closet. Band t-shirts, a varsity jacket for swimming he was so proud of. His worn Converse sneakers sat beside the bed, laces tucked in as if he'd just kicked them off. His textbooks and novels were on the shelf, and on his desk, the math homework from March 10th, 2010, remained unfinished, the pencil lying across a half-solved equation. I couldn't get rid of anything. Every objecta-chewed pen, a concert ticket stub, a broken wristwatch seemed to hold a sliver of his soul. A piece of him I refused to let go. Every Sunday, without fail, I made my pilgrimage. I visited his grave with fresh sunflowers. His favorite, I cleaned the granite headstone with a soft cloth, pulled the weeds that dared to encroach, and talked to him as if he could hear me. I told him about my week, the silly things my kindergarten students said, the new cafe that opened downtown, the slow, aching passage of a world moving on without him. Sometimes I brought a book, often the fantasy novels he loved, and read aloud, because Zion always cherished it when I read to him before bed, long after he was probably too old for it. You should move on, Alara. Well-meaning friends and family would tell me, as if it was simple to leave behind the child who grew inside your body, whose heartbeat once echoed yours, as if grief had a deadline, a calendar you could circle and then close. I tried therapy. I tried a support group for bereaved parents, but hearing their fresh, raw pain only reopened my own wounds. I tried antidepressants. That turned the world into a muffled, gray fog. Nothing healed that wound. I only learned to coexist with the pain, to carry it as a constant, heavy companion, a second shadow. For 15 years, I kept Zion's cell phone number active. I paid the bill every month, a small, irrational line item in my budget, just so I could call occasionally and hear his voicemail message in his teenage voice, slightly deepened but still boyish. Hey, you've reached Zion. Leave a message and I'll call you back. Thanks. Those few seconds of audio were my sacred ritual, a portal to a world where he still existed, where his voice still vibrated in the air. Maybe it was madness, but it was my quiet madness, my way of keeping him alive in the only way I knew how. People moved on. His high school friends graduated college, got married, posted pictures of their babies on social media. The world kept turning, oblivious, without Zion in it. I kept breathing. I worked as a kindergarten teacher, finding a sad solace in the innocent chaos of 5-year-old. I existed in a limbo between life and death. I wasn't truly alive, just moving out of inertia, marking time, counting the days until I could be reunited with my son again. That's when it happened. On a Wednesday, August 14th, 15 years and 5 months to the day after the accident. It was exactly 3:27 in the morning when my cell phone rang, the shrill sound tearing me from a restless, dreamless sleep. In the profound darkness of my bedroom, the screen's glow was a shocking beacon. It illuminated the name I never, ever expected to see again: Zion. My breath stopped. No, it wasn't Zion. Do not answer. as I had renamed the contact years ago in a moment of bitter clarity. It was just Zion, clean and simple, as if someone had restored the original contact from a backup of my old life. My heart rate skyrocketed, beating against my ribs like a caged, panicked animal. My hands shook so violently, I almost fumbled the phone onto the floor. It couldn't be real. It had to be a dream, a glitch, some cruel technological failure. Or maybe, after 15 years of living with a ghost, sanity had finally abandoned me altogether. The phone kept ringing. A relentless digital chirp. 5 rings. 6. On the 7th, something deep inside me, some primal, maternal wire, snapped. I answered. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then the sound of slow, hesitant human breathing. "Hello," I whispered, my voice a dry crackle. More silence. And then, "Mom." The voice was his. There was no mistaking it. The same timbre, the same slight upward lilt at the end of the word. The way he'd always drawn out the M sound. "Moom. Mom, where am I? It's completely darkened here." The air froze in my lungs. The walls of my bedroom seemed to contract, the darkness pressing in. This couldn't be happening. This was the heart of impossibility. Zion. That was all I could manage as my entire body trembled. "Yeah, it's me. I don't know where I am. I can't see anything. I'm cold. What happened to me?" I switched on the bedside lamp with shaking fingers, as if the weak yellow light could dispel this madness. My mind fired in 1,000 directions. A cruel prank. Someone who had cloned his number. An auditory hallucination born of medication and eternal sleepless nights. But that voice, I would recognize that voice in a cacophony of millions. "Zion, is that really you?" I asked. Tears I didn't know I had left streaming down my face. How is this possible? "I don't know, Mom." His voice sounded distant, foggy with confusion. "I remember the crash. I remember the rain, the headlights coming right at me, and then nothing. Just darkness. And now I'm here, but I don't know where here is. I can't see anything. I feel like I'm trapped." A sob escaped my throat. I jumped out of bed, stumbling across the room while clutching the phone like a lifeline. "Zion, you died 15 years ago. I buried you." Silence on the other end. A silence so dense and heavy I could almost touch it. "No, Mom. I can't be dead. I'm talking to you. I'm thinking. I'm feeling. I just can't move. Everything is tight around me." I felt a chill, cold and sharp, run down my spine. Tight, like a coffin. My God. Could it have been a catastrophic hospital mistake? Had someone declared him dead prematurely? Gothic tales of people being buried alive swirled in my mind in a torrent of horror. But it was impossible. I saw him. I touched his cold, waxy skin. He was buried 15 years ago. He couldn't be alive. Not after all this time. "Where are you right now?" I asked, trying to force my voice into some semblance of steadiness. "What do you see around you?" "Nothing. It's totally dark. I can feel wood. I'm lying down on something hard. There's a weird smell, like damp earth and old flowers." "Mom, I'm scared." My blood turned to ice in my veins. He was describing a casket. How could he know that? How could he be conscious? Calm down, my son. The words came out automatically, a mother's instinct overriding the screaming panic in my head. I'm going to help you. Just tell me how I can find you. I don't know. I just remember the accident and then waking up here. Mom, how long did you say it's been? 15 years, Zion. My voice broke on his name. You died in 2010. I heard his breathing quicken on the other end, turning into desperate, ragged sobs. It can't be. It can't. I'm 17. How could I have lost 15 years of my life? I grabbed my dresser to keep from falling. The situation was absurd, impossible, and yet it was happening. The voice of my son, my dead son, was sounding through the phone with the same heartbreaking clarity as when he was alive. Zaya, I'm going to find you, okay? I'm going to find a way. Even I didn't believe what I was saying, but the desperation in his voice, the childlike fear, drove me to promise anything. Just don't hang up. Please don't hang up. The battery's dying, Mom. The panic was palpable, vibrating through the speaker, the phones flashing. I don't want to be left alone in here. Wait, Zion, how are you calling me? Where did you get a phone? The questions exploded in my mind, a last-ditch search for logic in the madness. It was in my pocket, my old cell phone. I don't know how it still works, but the screen says the battery is almost dead. His old cell phone, the same blue Nokia he was buried with. At his specific request in the will he wrote at 16 during a morbid, philosophical phase obsessed with his own mortality. At the time, we thought it was just a teenage whim, a dark joke. But we respected his wish. Zion, listen to me. I tried to organize my chaotic thoughts. Do you remember Cypress Grove Memorial Park in Stone Mountain? That's where you are. In the East Wing, near the big oak tree. If you're in the casket, that's where you are. Cemeterian. His voice was a tremulous whisper. I'm really in a cemetery. I don't know anymore, son. I don't know what's happening, but I'm coming there right now. Mom, the battery's almost. His voice began to cut out, digitized and choppy, scared. Please, help me. Zion, hang on. I'm coming. I screamed into the phone, but all I heard was the hollow, definitive click of the call ending. He had hung up, or the battery had finally died. Trembling so hard my teeth chattered, I immediately tried to call the number back. Nothing. Not even a ring. Just the automated, emotionless message. The number you have dialed is not in service. As if those brief, impossible minutes of conversation had never happened. I didn't stop to think about logic, legality, or the sheer impossibility of it all. A force greater than reason took over. I threw a jacket over my pajamas, grabbed my car keys, and ran out to the garage. It was nearly 4 a.m. when I drove like a woman, possessed through the deserted streets of Atlanta, running red lights, my heart a pounding drum of terror and a wild, forbidden hope. The cemetery gates were, of course, locked, but I knew the night watchman, Mr. Silas. Over years of Sunday visits, we had formed a silent, understanding friendship. He was a retired veteran with a kind, weathered face, and he always let me stay a few minutes past official closing time when I lost track, talking to Zion's headstone. I parked haphazardly at the wrought iron entrance and ran to the small guard booth. Mr. Silas was dozing in a chair, a paperback book open on his lap. He startled awake at my frantic pounding on the glass. Ms. Vance. What in the world? It's 4 in the morning. Silas, I need to get in. Now. It's urgent. It's about my son. He looked at me through the glass, his expression shifting from sleepiness to deep concern. He saw the wild look in my eyes, the tears streaking my face. Ms. Alara, your boy, he's been gone a long time. I know it seems crazy, I interrupted, my voice cracking, but I need to go to his grave right now. Please. Something in my desperation, the raw, unvarnished agony, must have convinced him. He nodded slowly, a deep frown on his face. He grabbed his large ring of keys and a heavy-duty flashlight. I'll go with you. It's not safe to be alone out here in the dark. I didn't have time to thank him. I was already running down the main gravel path, the beam of his flashlight bouncing ahead of me. 15 years of weekly pilgrimages had created a precise mental map, even in the near-total darkness, lit only by a sliver of waning moon. I knew the way. Left at the Almeida Mausoleum, right at the Weeping Angel statue, follow the row of cypress trees to the giant, spreading oak. And there, beneath the ancient trees, shadow, was the marble headstone, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Sion Eduardo Banse, 1993 to 2010. Beloved son, forever in our hearts. I fell to my knees in front of it, the world spinning. What did I expect to find? What was I looking for? A ringing phone 6 feet under the grass. The earth over the grave was firm, intact, covered by the carpet of well-kept Bermuda grass I myself had planted years ago. No sign of disturbance, no mysterious hole. Nothing. He called me. Silas, I murmured, not taking my eyes off the grave. My Zion called me less than half an hour ago. The watchman placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Alara, you had a nightmare. A bad one. It happens when we carry a loss like yours for so long. It wasn't a dream, I screamed, pushing his hand away, my voice echoing in the silent necropolis. I was awake. I answered the phone. It was his voice, driven by a frenzy I couldn't control. I started scraping at the grass with my bare fingernails, trying to dig to claw my way down to him. It was utter madness. I knew it. A grave is 6 feet deep. I would never reach the casket, but reason had abandoned me the moment I heard his voice. Ms. Vance, please. Mr. Silas grabbed my wrists, preventing me from continuing the futile self-destructive attempt. You'll hurt yourself. This isn't right. I broke down then, great heaving sobs that racked my entire body, smearing dirt and grass stains across my tear-streaked face. He said, it's dark. He said, he's trapped, he's scared. Silas, how can I leave him like that? How? The watchman, with a strength that belied his age, helped me to my feet, supporting me as I trembled violently. I'm going to take you home. You're in shock. You need to rest. Tomorrow everything will look different. But I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that nothing would ever look the same again. As he guided me gently but firmly back toward the gates, I kept muttering, his phone, it was with him in the casket. How could it work after so many years? How could it have a battery? How could it get a signal down there? Mr. Silas didn't answer, probably thinking I was delirious with grief. And maybe I was. Maybe the loneliness and sorrow had finally corroded the last vestiges of my sanity, and I was now hallucinating, creating an elaborate fantasy where my son could still call me. He insisted on following me home in his own car to make sure I got inside safely. I promised him, with white lies, that I would try to sleep, that I would call my doctor in the morning. As soon as I closed the front door, the silence of the house descended on me, heavier than ever. I rushed to the landline and tried Zion's number again, and again, and again, 20 times. Always the same result: not in service. I sat in the dark kitchen, shaking, trying to assemble the shattered pieces of my reality. I needed help. I needed someone who would at least listen, who would pretend to believe me long enough to help me figure this out. Darius, Zion's father. If there was anyone in the world whose love for Zion matched my own, it was him. Our marriage had shattered, but that shared love was an immutable fact, a bedrock beneath the roof. I looked at the clock. 5:12 a.m., far too early for a normal call. But this had stopped being normal the moment my phone lit up at 3:27. I dialed his number, which my fingers still remembered from muscle memory. After 4 rings, a sleep-thickened voice answered. "Allah, is that you?" "What's wrong, Darius?" My voice trembled, barely audible. "I need to tell you something. It's going to sound insane, but I need you to just listen." And I told him everything. The call, Zion's voice, the description of the darkness and confinement, the cell phone in the casket, my manic trip to the cemetery. I braced myself for him to interrupt, to call me hysterical, to suggest, kindly or not, that I needed serious psychiatric help. But Darius just listened. In utter silence, I could hear his steady breathing on the other end of the line. When I finished, the silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. "Do you believe me?" I finally asked, my voice small and hollow. "I don't know what to believe, Ara," he said, his voice strangely controlled, subdued. "But I know you. You wouldn't make something like this up. Not about Zion. I need your help. Darius, I need to understand what's happening. What do you want to do?" he asked slowly. "Exhume the body." The words, spoken aloud, sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. "I need to be sure. I need to see what's down there." More silence. "Then, you know that's almost impossible, right? We'd need a court order. It could take weeks, months, and even if we got it, Alara, it's been 15 years. There won't be much to see." "I know," I whispered, "but I have to try. If there's the slightest chance, I'll be there in an hour," he said, cutting me off, his decisiveness shocking me. "We'll talk in person." True to his word, Darius arrived in less than 60 minutes. His hair, once jet black like Zion's, was now thickly streaked with silver. He had deep circles under his eyes, and he looked like he'd thrown on the first clothes he could find. When I opened the door, I saw not just my ex-husband, but the ghost of the young man I'd married, now carved with lines of a different, shared grief. "You look terrible," he said, the old, familiar attempt at breaking tension with dry humor. "You're not exactly your best self either," I replied, stepping aside to let him in. We sat in the living room, the space between us on the couch charged with 15 years of unspoken words and separate sorrows. "Tell me every detail again," he asked, leaning forward, elbows on his knees, the posture of a man ready to solve a problem. I repeated the story, slower this time, adding details I'd missed in my first frantic telling. The exact tone of Zion's confusion, the sound of his restricted movement, the smell he described. "The cell phone," Darius interrupted. "You said he has the cell phone in the casket." "Yes. Don't you remember? It was in his will." Darius nodded slowly, a distant look in his eyes. "I remember that phase, when he wrote down all his Inkazaidai instructions. We thought it was just macabre teen angst. We never imagined. An old Nokia, I said. One of those indestructible bricks. But still. Alara, Darius said, his engineer's mind latching onto the practical impossibility. 15 years underground, even if the phone survived, the battery wouldn't. And how would it get a signal 6 feet under packed earth? It doesn't make sense. Unless, I prompted, unless it's not really coming from the grave. He stood up and began to pace. Alara, have you considered it? Could be something else. A sick joke. Someone who knows about the phone being buried with him, who has a recording of his voice. I shook my head vehemently. No more. Darius. It was him recording. No impersonator could capture that aliveness in his voice. And who would be so cruel? After all this time, Darius ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so achingly reminiscent of Zion that my heart clenched. So, what are you suggesting? That our son somehow managed to call you from inside his coffin 15 years after he died? He stopped pacing and looked at me, his expression a mask of conflicted pain. Alara, you need to consider other possibilities. Maybe you need help. You've been living in this house with his ghost for a decade and a half. Grief does strange things to the mind. You think I'm crazy? It wasn't a question. I didn't say that. He sat down again, closer this time, and to my shock, he took my cold hands in his warm ones-on intimacy we hadn't shared in years. I'm saying you never got over it. You never moved on. This could be your mind's way of trying to finally find closure, even if it's creating a terrifying scenario to do it. I pulled my hands away, stung. And you moved on so well, didn't you? With your perfect new wife and your perfect new kids. That's not fair, Alara. His voice hardened, but his eyes remained sad. I lost my son, too. I grieved, too. I chose to try to live again. It was that or drown. I closed my eyes, the fight draining out of me. Arguing with Darius wouldn't bring me answers. And a treacherous part of me wondered if he was right. Maybe this was the final breakdown. I'm going to try calling him again, I said, grabbing my cell phone from the coffee table. Right in front of you. You'll see. I dialed the number, put it on speaker. The automated message filled the quiet room. The number you have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try again. See? Darius said, his voice gentle now, pitying. Alara, he was cut off as the phone in my hand suddenly vibrated, the screen blazing to life. Zion. It was him. I wasn't hallucinating the caller ID. Darius saw it too. His face went pale, all the color draining away, his eyes wide with disbelief. It's him, I breathed, my thumb hovering over the answer icon. I showed the screen to Darius. Are you seeing this? With a trembling finger, I answered and put it back on speaker. Zayong. My voice was a ragged whisper. Mom. His voice sounded distant, choppy with static, but undeniably his. I managed to charge the phone a bit. There's a light now. Darius raised a hand to his mouth, his knuckles white. He was hearing it too. Zion, your dad is here with me. We're on. Speaker, Dad? The voice sharpened, became more alert. Dad, is that? Darius swallowed hard, tears springing to his eyes. Yes, son. It's me. What's happening to me? Why are they saying I'm dead? I remember the accident, but then everything is hazy. I looked at Darius, who seemed How do you explain death to the dead, Zion? Darius finally spoke, his voice thick. You said there's a light now. What are you seeing? There's a tiny flashlight here. It was in my jacket pocket with the phone. I don't know how it still works, but I can see a little now. I'm in a wooden box. It's small, I can barely move. I felt the blood freeze in my veins. He was describing the casket again. What else do you see? Darius asked, gripping the edge of the couch. There's a white cloth, and I'm wearing, wait, it's not my clothes. It's a suit, a dark suit. I never had a suit like this. The funeral suit, the one we bought for him to be buried in. Darius and I exchanged a look of pure horror. Zion, I said, my voice trembling. Try to push the lid. See if you can open it. We heard sounds of struggle, muffled grunts of effort. I can't. It's too heavy. It feels like there's something on top. Dirt? Maybe? I'm scared, Mom, he whispered. And in that moment, he was no longer a young man, but the little boy who used to climb into our bed during thunderstorms. I'm scared of being left alone in the dark when the battery dies. I'm scared you won't be able to find me. We're going to find you, I promised again. A vow made against all reason. Just hang on, try to save the battery. Only call if it's absolutely necessary. Okay. He sounded so weak. Dad, Mom, I love you. We love you too, son. We said in unison, an echo of 1,000 goodnights from a lifetime ago. The call ended with a soft click. The silence in the living room was profound. Darius stared at the phone in my hand as if it were a venomous snake. Tears traced clean paths through the dust on his face. It wasn't a hallucination, I stated, the truth solidifying between us. No, he breathed. It wasn't. What do we do now? My mind was a whirlpool, sucking all coherent thought down into panic. Darius stood up, the analytical part of his brain visibly engaging, a defense mechanism against the supernatural. We need to be methodical. First, establish facts. What do we know? Zion died. He was buried. He is somehow conscious and has contacted us. What does that mean? He rubbed his face roughly. It is scientifically impossible for him to be biologically alive in that casket. Not after 15 years. I know, I whispered, the implications chilling me. So what is it? A ghost? A restless soul? Some kind of residual consciousness? Darius had always been the skeptic, a man of physics and empirical evidence. Seeing him now, forced to consider these possibilities, showed just how deeply the call had shaken him. I don't know, but we need help. He grabbed his own phone. I'm calling Kai Lewis, Darius's best friend from college, now a forensic pathologist with the county medical examiner's office, a man of science who had seen the very edge of death, but always from the side of the living. Do you think that's wise? I asked nervously. Involving more people. What if he thinks we've both lost our minds? Kai knows me, Darius said, already dialing. He knows I wouldn't make this up. We need someone who understands the physical aspects. And we're going to need authorization for an exhumation. The word hung in the air, ugly and final. The idea of digging up our son, of seeing what 15 years in the Georgia clay had done to him, was profoundly disturbing. Do you really think we should? I asked, my voice small. Darius looked at me, his gaze intense. If that were you, if you like this story, like my video and subscribe my channel for more interesting stories like this. Thanks for watching.